A is for Alcoholic is a program about recovery. My name is John and I'm an alcoholic.
And my name is Jerry and I'm an alcoholic.
Join us as we go through the alphabet of alcoholism one letter at a time.
Yo, what's up, former party people? It's two dudes and a pizza place coming to you live and direct from two separate bedrooms during the big game day. You're gonna get sued.
By who? By
the y'all ready for this players.
By Unlimited.
Is that what the name of the band is? Unlimited?
The song is called Get Ready. This is the rap version, but we're not going to get it. Oh, Too Unlimited.
Oh,
we're not going to get that far into the song to hear the rap part of that.
You're playing that song because we're recording on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, that's all. It is Super Bowl Sunday. So
we don't care. We're two sensitive men.
I don't really care. It's funny. My boss is from Boston or somewhere thereabouts, and he's a very mild-mannered, you wouldn't know it to talk to him at all that he's from Boston, and he gets he's like, yes, you have to love Tom Brady and you have to love the New England Patriots, and I guess Tom Brady's in the game this year, but he's playing for the Buccaneers, so it's a big mixed bag over there in New England.
All I know is Tom Brady is an old ass racist. That's all I know.
Mm-hmm.
He's old and racist.
There you go.
Yeah, that's my hot take.
Old and racist.
Old and racist. The Tom Brady story. He's all, would you like some insurance? No, not you, brown people.
Mm-hmm. Or what's the what am I thinking of? What was I don't know. Chicken parm, you taste so good. Who was that?
I don't know. Is it chicken parmesan ad? Is there fast food? Is there fast Italian food? I wonder if there's fast food.
The
for
Barros
Italian.
in the mall.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot about Sabaros. They changed the name to Barros though now, right? Didn't they take the S off?
They didn't like the S?
I guess not. Well, at least in Tucson they have fast food. You're right. The Italian fast food chain here is called Barros.
Barros. Okay.
Yeah, B-A-R. Anyway, I don't know what that has to do with recovery, but I guess
so. I don't know what it has to do with recovery.
Chicken
parm, you taste so good. It's a State Farm or something like that, but I think that's Peyton Manning. It's a different quarterback selling insurance.
Oh, that's the guy. So okay, see, I get them all confused because all those white dudes look the same to me.
They kind of do.
Hot takes. I'm full of hot takes today, dude.
Yeah,
I'm sassy, dude.
Well, Jerry, I do have a big question for you today. Well, maybe not. So let me set the stage. Because H is for, hey, that's my recovery. That's my program you're talking about there, or something like that.
You didn't even have a full sentence for it. It was just, hey, or something like that.
No, well, okay. I messed it up. So let me do that
or
again.
Something. We'll just edit that shit out, dude.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's my program you're talking about there. I got an email from somebody, and they had listened to a previous podcast where I interviewed this Dr. Dunbar, and the person in the email was a little taken aback by the doctor's opinion, as it were. And if you go back and listen to it, he talks more about how our desires and it's all in the subconscious, and if we can get down to the subconscious level, and then we can lift that desire for alcohol, and that we're kind of stuck in what he calls the alcohol matrix, and which was really, he wasn't interested in the program, right? He wasn't interested in the 12 steps. To him, it wasn't about that. It was more about this sort of collective unconscious desire, I guess. And so she was listening to it, the person who sent me the email, and seemed a little perturbed by it because, in our conversation, myself and the doctor, we kind of went a little back and forth. And I said, I have to disagree with you on some things because that's not how I see it. And he was very respectful. Like it wasn't combative or anything like that.
Right.
But I got the feeling and we talked this through if you listen to the whole thing, but I was very defensive in the beginning, and I was even very defensive in some of the correspondence that he and I had before we sat down for the interview.
Mm-hmm.
And I also found I felt this way when I read Annie Grace's book, because her thing is also about, well, it's kind of all in your mind. It's not really about you. It's not a moral issue. It's not a personal thing. It's not something you need to fix about you. It's the way that our brains are related. And so, or relate to alcohol. And there was another book that she had mentioned in the email, but I hadn't read it, so I couldn't talk on that. But this idea that it's not you, Jerry, it's alcohol, it's the world, it's society at large, and that you need not necessarily go dig up all your dirt to get better,
Mm-hmm.
and that you don't even necessarily need to quit entirely to get better. Um, and the person in the email was just concerned, like, well, I'm fresh in recovery, I'm fresh in this 12 steps, several months in, and well, what the fuck is this? It kind of, I think the phrase was, it annoyed and angered me, was
Yeah.
what and I responded basically saying the same thing, that I felt that twinge of defensiveness. Especially, I remember when I read Annie Grace's book, and
Mm-hmm.
um in the first chapter, and I'd have to go back and read it again, but the feeling I got was that there was a certain denouncement to the 12 steps.
Right.
And I don't know if you've ever heard any of this, or experienced any of this, or any of the sort of pushback on the 12 steps. I mean, maybe you've watched some YouTube videos, or there's some people out
Probably.
there who are very
Mm-hmm.
anti
Yeah.
12 steps
Mm-hmm.
and say it's detrimental and it doesn't really work. And there's it's a lot about the moral failing of the person in
Is the opinion of the
is the
12 steps, or the
opinion.
opinion of the 12-step person who's being critical?
I think it's the opinion of the 12-step person who's being critical.
But
That's
wouldn't it be a
my
moral failing in the sense of the 12-step as well? Because they're asking you to have a spiritual recovery. So would a spiritual
yeah.
recovery, the basis of that be some type of spiritual, well, I guess
Yeah.
spiritual moral failings are different, right?
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, here's my thing too, is that
They're very
yes,
interesting. Yeah.
well,
Hmm.
there are. I have plenty of moral failings. Now,
Yeah.
it was I don't want to say it was all.
Uh-huh.
It was all a direct result of the alcohol that I drank, but pretty much like 99.9%. Maybe a little bit less, but it was those moral failings they involved alcohol.
Right. But were they not things you, So I guess what's I never read
What's
Annie
the
Grace's
question?
book. I never
Okay.
read Annie Grace's book.
Okay.
I've listened to a couple of her little podcasts.
Okay.
And I don't mean little in a demeaning way. I mean
No,
little, like they're
They're
short
short.
podcasts. Yeah. And I can relate to people being critical of the program because
Mhm.
everybody is an individual. So saying that this one size fits all thing is kind of really simplifying something that's really complex.
Mhm.
But and we've talked about before in the podcast, my opinion of alcoholism and recovery is it's the hardest, easiest thing you'll ever do. You know what I mean? Because it is very complex and very simple at the same time. It's very strange. I think being critical of the program in of itself, because it's the program, is putting the cart before the horse, because it's just another tool you can utilize. And if you're
Mhm.
only looking at like your hardcore AA people who are inflexible and you know what I mean, or being fucking pricks about it, then you're looking at the wrong subsection of AA. You're just looking at like a little portion of it.
Right.
I didn't listen to your podcast with Dunbar at all either. I just don't really listen to the podcasts after we do
That's
them because I feel weird about it.
No, it's
I
mean,
rarely
that's
do.
fine.
I do. So
I don't. So I'm not asking you to be critical of these people in particular, because I don't think
Right.
that that's fair. And I
no,
don't
it's not
really-
because I
I
couldn't
don't-
talk to him face to face anyway.
and I don't think that that's helpful. Those are just the two. those are just the two examples that I have, and then there's the one that's recorded. And yeah, so I'm not asking you that, but in general, there are other theories as to why
Yeah.
we are addicted to alcohol, or whether or not we are actually addicted, and maybe we can just make
Right.
a
And
choice to not
so
drink.
if the opinion of it is it's all physiological, it's kind of right in a sense if you want to really break it down to its core, because all we are is our brain, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's outside forces, outside things that affect us. They affect the way we think, they affect our thought processes, our problem solving processes, but at the end of the day, it's all your brain. It's the thing
Right.
between your two ears that makes you an alcoholic. It's not the alcohol that makes you an alcoholic, it's the thing between your ears, because it could have been cocaine, could have been the thing you were super enthusiastic about, or having sex with randos, or fucking eating too much. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the obsessive compulsive behavior. Our flavor just happens to be alcohol,
Correct.
you and I and this bigger group of people. And so
Correct.
I think for me personally, it was trying to find a way to cope with that and to live life without that. And being that it's so prevalent within our society, it was very hard for me to live a life outside of that. I don't know if it's easier in a sense I this is weird ground for me to tread on. I wouldn't say it's easier for an opioid or someone who's using an illicit substance for them to get sober or recover, because that substance, you have to go through more steps to acquire the substance.
Mm-hmm.
So for them, I'm not quite sure because I haven't experienced that, but it's almost like this matter of avoidance could be easier. It seems like just don't hang out with that crew of people that are all doing dope.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it'll be fine. It's not like you walk into a Dairy Mart and they have dope that you can buy. That, whereas like anywhere I go, there's booze. Any conversation that opens up when you meet a new person, you go to their house for dinner, there's wine. Do you know what I mean? Like all of these things you have, they all have either beer or wine or some type of light form of alcohol. So it's really prevalent in our culture. So I feel like there are more pitfalls if that's your drug of choice, right?
Sure.
So I guess I kind of went off on a tangent, but because the caffeine is kicking in. But I feel like if someone's telling you, hey, it's all internal, it's all in your head, they're absolutely right. It is all in your head, because that is, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's one of those things though. So I guess if we're talking about the avoiding the spiritual aspect of it, right?
I feel like that's
aspect
part of it,
is super fucking weird to me, and it always has been weird to me. And I still meditate, and I still say my little prayer as a form of respect and gratitude, right? But the spiritual aspect has always been super weird to me, because when they wrote the fucking 12 steps, it was the 30s, and God was in everything.
Yeah,
the Christian God was everywhere.
Yes.
Imagine if they wrote the 12 steps in 2020. Do you know what I mean? It would be a whole different. It would. I wonder if it would even be the same program. And the fact that AA is inflexible and they will not change the steps to go with the times or change the message of the meeting, I find really disappointing in the program, because things need change.
Right. But now you say that now. And so this is another thing that I wanted to kind of differentiate, because you say that now with 6.5 years of sobriety.
Right.
But if somebody had come to you and said that at 3 months, you would have been like, I'm just trying to get my fucking bearings here. I don't need to I don't need to worry about the problematic language or get turned off by, God and the misogyny.
But I was turned off by God and misogyny in the beginning.
I understand. Yeah. And a lot of people are, and that's fine too. But you were at a point, just like me, so fucking desperate.
The gift of desperation.
The gift, the beautifully
hey, happy birthday, kid. Happy birthday. Did you wake up outside crying? Happy birthday. Here's a gift.
Oh man, I'm just glad that one time I do remember waking up outside. It was summertime.
Dude, I would do it all the time. That's why I always use it as my example, because part of my blackouts were like I'd be outside. Like, how the fuck did I get out here? Anyway,
hot as fuck in the backyard. It was summertime in Oregon. Dude. And Steven was nice enough that all he could do was like just throw a blanket over me and just
pat you to sleep. Just like there, basically. Little bear. Good night, moon. Good night, moon.
But so in those early days,
Uh-huh.
I could not have conceived of sitting there and being critical of the structure of the program that
Correct.
I was simply trying to explore. Like, it wasn't even that I was feeling good about it. It wasn't even that I was feeling like I was reaping any benefits from this. I was still
No.
trying to like wrap my head around the idea that what do you mean I'm never going to drink again ever? Like, I guess so, because and then, getting the tiniest little bit of momentum, and I was like,
Right.
okay, well, I just need to stick with this for a little while longer and I'll figure it the fuck out, because nothing makes sense. Nothing made sense when I was drinking, made a terrible sense, and nothing makes sense now. And I'm trying to understand this book that somebody gave me, that I saw somebody who I knew personally, you and one other
Mhm.
person, who was like, John, you got to try this, man. Like, I don't know if it's going to work for you, but it did something for me. And then to see that and go, okay, and that's what allowed me to look past those things that I'd be like, yeah, I don't know what's up with this. That's fucking weird, sketchy,
Right.
shady, whatever. And so when I hear people say that about my program, but it's not mine, but that's how it feels. And there's this sort of twinge of defensiveness. And so
Mhm.
there's a difference between, say, looking at it 6.5 years, and you can,
Right.
because you can breathe a little bit easier than you could at 6.5 weeks.
Right. Yeah, for the most part,
For the
right? Yeah. I
right.
mean, I'm not looking for any port in a storm at this point. I've kind of found, yeah, you're right.
Hmm.
Found a comfortable groove to be in. But people have to be critical of the program. I think you have to be critical of the program. Even early, you have to kind of be like, this shit is a tiny bit sus. Like
Hmm.
you have to be, but you also have to embrace whatever's going to get you fucking sober.
That's a great point, because in the very, very beginning, I took it as my whole perspective was, I'm going to do this like an investigative journalist, because
Right.
I don't think this is going to work for me. So I'm just going to be very
Hmm.
curious. I'm going to be very critical. And I did all of
Right.
those things.
Yeah. Hmm.
But as step by step and day by day, I was like, oh, I kept looking around and I'm going, oh, I'm not drinking anymore. And then a little while longer, oh, the drinking dreams have stopped.
Hmm.
And then a little while longer, I was starting to feel good in the mornings.
But is that working in a program or is that just not drinking for a
That was
long
not
time?
drinking, but I was able to sustain that because of the, I remember early on, I was only going to one meeting a week. Well, that's not entirely true, but there was one meeting that I would not miss. And so it was that, and then some cursory, you know, flipping through the book before I actually started doing any sort of real work.
Uh-huh.
But yes, it was not drinking, but I
Dude,
mean,
I
it was.
barely remember reading the book the first time I read it. The big book, I barely remember reading it. Like I literally don't even think I read it. I think I just looked at the words and turned the pages. I like didn't I don't they were like take notes. I'm like take notes on what? Like what the fuck is this? I've read the
Mhm,
big book so many times at this point, and not because I like the big book. I do
mhm,
like parts of the big book, but I've read it so many times just to try to understand it. It's like reading an
mhm,
instruction manual, dude.
mhm,
It really was. And I would always say at the meetings, like, I'd always try to share that, like, this is my IKEA instruction manual, and I may use a fucking hammer to put this shelf in, and you may use a mallet, and this guy over here may use the back end of an electric drill, but we're all trying to put this fucking shelf together, you know?
mhm,
So for me, it was just reading through going back and going, like, oh shit, why is this doing this? Let's read this part again, or, you know, yeah, so I barely remember reading the book the first time, dude. Like you say cursory, like I like literally just scanned the pages and just ran my way through it the first time just to be like, this is going to make me not want to drink anymore. And it didn't
right,
make me not want to drink anymore. I finished the book and I still wanted to fucking drink. I went to meetings for months and I still wanted to fucking drink. And they were like, you're not, it's because, nobody was telling me shit because I didn't really talk to anyone,
mhm,
but I would read online, like, and then I would get like from the speaking tapes and shit, or the podcast I listen to. They're like, "Well, you're not working your program correctly," and I'm like, "I'm doing it to the best of my ability, and I still want to drink because I'm a fucking alcoholic, and that's what I want to do. I want to hit the
mhm,
ground running because I like to run. The fact is, I like to run so much that, you know, I'm going to run my legs out from under me. But what happened was I did it by like osmosis, right? Like, I don't know if that's the right word. It's almost like seeping, like you're steeping tea. Like it took a while for it to kind of, okay, so this program isn't my entire life. It helped save my life because I started using parts of it to improve my life or to deal with what's going on with me, you know?
Yeah. So, and you bring up another
Now I
good
use it
point.
all the time.
The program?
Yeah, fuck
Yeah,
yeah, dude.
me
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It's sort of in there, and
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've been indoctrinated. It's just,
No,
it's like this really nice little tool I can use to be like,
right.
oh, why did you get angry there?
It's yeah.
Well,
The indoctrination
maybe
thing's weird
don't.
too, right? Because there's so many people in AA I don't like. And if it were a cult, I'd have to love everybody, but I'd still
Mhm.
help them. That's the thing, though. If they
Yeah,
asked me for help, I would
yeah,
offer this theoretical person or this, you know, rhetorical person. I'd
right,
help,
right.
but there are so many people I'd be in rooms and be like, I don't fucking like you.
Yeah.
Like I
I
don't
mean,
like you. Ew.
like I might have to ask you to leave your MAGA hat in the truck while we
Yo,
do our
just in
reading.
general, like, just okay, you're gonna share about how you're mad at everything again. Like every
Uh-huh.
week, you're
That
fucking mad, and I'm mad too. But
yeah.
I'm trying
Yeah.
not to be mad. It seems like you're just anyway. Whatever. This is not complain about the meeting I went to in 2016.
There's the you need to work on that resentment.
I know, dude. I need to call that guy up.
Seriously, you probably should. It'd probably make you feel better if you called him up and said, "Hey."
Nah, I probably feel worse because he'd still be mad.
So but the point you bring up and the difference between the conversation I had with Dr. Dunbar and what I read in Annie Grace's book is
Okay.
the idea of calling ourselves alcoholics.
Mhm.
And that I think is one of the sticking
Oh,
points
yeah.
between the two uh uh what do I want to say? Schools of thought, right?
Right.
So so there what I get from them, the feeling and the impression I get from them is you don't need to call yourself an alcoholic. You're not an alcoholic. And
Right.
so in my mind, for me, that felt more, I don't want to say yeah, I felt like I was being coddled in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas
Mhm.
now, granted, I had already recovered through the 12 steps, but in calling myself an alcoholic, which I had done many times without really understanding it when I was drunk,
Right.
just because I felt some sort of pride or some bullshit, you know, or I was just drunk and wanted to be an asshole,
Made you
right?
edgy. Gave you
Yeah,
some edge. So
yes,
the ladies
yes,
wanted to explore that
yes. I'm
edge.
an
Yeah.
alcoholic.
I'm a Tom Waits song. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Who wants to live in a Tom Waits song?
No, dude.
Hmm. Except for maybe Chocolate Jesus. That was a good one. I like that one. But
Yeah.
it's a lot of calories. So
Outta here.
the idea of calling myself an alcoholic
Uh-huh.
I didn't feel stigmatized. And in
Uh-huh.
fact, I felt the beginnings of a little bit of understanding of myself and therefore a little liberated in
Right.
that I knew what I was.
Right.
And so then I could go, oh, there's a way to lift this from me, right?
Yeah.
There's a series of steps to help me with this wiring
The
in my
problem
brain.
has a name now, so now the problem can be figured out a little better.
Right.
You know, why does it that's like my iPad and it's not doing something. And so I try to do a general Google search and then I find out boom, boom, boom. Oh, something's burnt out and it's called this. So now
Mm-hmm.
I can go through Google again and go, oh my, you know, whatever the name is, the fucking flux
Mm-hmm.
capacitor is cracked or whatever. Oh, now I know it's that. So then I go to
Mm-hmm.
Google and go things to remedy a flux capacitor being cracked. You know what I mean? And it narrows down the search and it gives me more of a foothold, more of a finger hold to solve this problem or to at least deal with this problem. Man, I don't just fucking this. I was this is funny you bring it up because I was thinking about this the other day and how some people don't want to call themselves alcoholics. They'll say I'm a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, or they just it's a stigma, and that's fine. That's fine. It doesn't fucking matter. It shouldn't matter. The only thing that should matter is how you work in your recovery. Like even with the like I said, I haven't read the books, but at the same point, when someone's saying you're not an alcoholic, like that's not up to you to determine how I how I call myself. Like, it's none of your fucking business. I could call myself Tony Shalhoub, and that's the way I'm fucking rolling forever. It doesn't matter. I could be Monk, kiss my ass, like I'm an alcoholic. That's the problem I have. You may not like it for yourself, and that's fine. I won't call you an alcoholic.
Your show would be called Drunk.
Exactly, right? And it just show up bloated and be like,
The
where's
opposite of
cheese at?
OCD, knocking shit over, can't figure anything out.
Stealing cheese and broccoli from the cheese plate, put it in my suit pockets,
Mhm.
but my determination of what I am, if it's not offending anyone else, do you know what I mean? Or intentionally trying to ruin someone else's day, shouldn't be a problem to some people. But I can also see the reasoning that it can be an excuse. But then again, excuses are like the fucking mainstay of being an alcoholic. It's just in our nature, or at least in my nature. How about that? I don't want to say all of us, but for me, I'd be like, well, I know I'm a fucking giant drunk. I'm a fucking idiot. I don't know how to do shit right. I'm drunk. What?
For me too, and many people that I have met and talked to, right? So it's not
Right.
just me. I've actually people I have met and talked to. Now that is purely anecdotal.
Yeah, we're
there
not
is
scientists.
there is no scientific study done on this program, or I mean there's plenty of other scientific studies that have been done on brain chemistry
Oh,
right.
dude, I could just see us with beakers and like safety glasses and it's just big lab coats, and you just have a metal rod, and you just point like tapping a ham,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, you make notes. Yeah.
There's but there hasn't been. So because
Tapping a
it's
rock
not.
star can. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Tink, tink, tink. Monster. Bang. Bang
Monster.
is the new hot one, right?
Bang.
Get into
Yeah.
Bang.
No, I've been fucking with Celsius lately.
Oh, that's right.
Actually.
Celsius.
Oh, that shit is gangster. Anyway, I love caffeine, dude. But yeah.
Yeah. You didn't used to. That's funny because you didn't used to drink coffee, right? You didn't used
It
to
made
get
me
into
shit my pants.
What happened? You got healthy.
I quit drinking, and so now I
Yeah.
can drink coffee and not like take off like a fucking bottle rocket. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's the stigma versus, for me it was the liberation, and this is just my personal experience and the anecdotal evidence that I have gathered from the people that I have spent time with, right? And this idea of I am an alcoholic, and I don't have to say that.
Sorry.
And I don't have any stigma to it, but and I don't bring that up like when somebody at work was like, so you don't drink at all anymore? And but I did think about this the other day because somebody said, hey, how's your podcast going? And I think they were, I don't know what, and I said, yeah, basically it. And I was like, why can't you drink anymore, John? And it's like, because I will ruin my life. I will lose this job, any relationship,
Yeah,
friendship.
right. It's because when I start, I can't stop.
You know
what I mean? I can't stop till I fall asleep. And yeah.
And there's a great podcast. It's one of the few that I've listened to twice. And it's a Rich Roll episode from like 2015 or 16. And the guy's name is Chris Davis. And I highly suggest if you go and search for it, if you're interested in alcoholism at all, and you go listen to this, he's awesome. And it was
You love that dude.
I do. I like Rich
Roll. Have you
emailed
him?
Not
you
yet.
You can't find him, huh? He's kind of person incognito. He's like one of those dudes. It's hard to find of it.
Well, I mean, I think I see him on Twitter.
He's probably got his own podcast now.
Who, Chris?
Not Rich
Davis?
Roll.
Oh yeah,
Chris
yeah.
Davis, yeah.
No, I couldn't find him. He's totally incognito. But he said something to the effect of, he's like, I'll ruin my whole fucking life if you give me something to drink. I'll burn it all to the ground. And he's like, you think that sounds dramatic? Why don't you buy me a drink and find out what dramatic really is?
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I love that.
That
right.
Hit home for me. And
yeah.
I'm an alcoholic, and that's fine. I don't need to go telling people, I don't need to say it in mixed company, right? My name is John, and I'm an alcoholic.
And but see, it's almost like alcoholic becomes part of your name, which is fine. It shouldn't not be, right? Because if you're allergic to fucking penicillin, you have to wear a stupid bracelet so the AMTs know not to fucking fill you full of penicillin. So why would I not
have a bracelet?
I mean, I don't have to throw it in. Yeah, I don't need an alcoholic bracelet, but you know what I mean? Like, why would I not just, if someone asks, why would I not just be honest about what kind of animal I am or what my out? Hey, I'm Jerry. I'm allergic to penicillin, which I
Right.
absolutely am allergic to penicillin. Hey, I'm allergic to bees. You know,
Right.
you don't
We'll
got to
be
wear a
getting the,
T-shirt that says like bees. Oh, that you want the life
I'll get
alert?
the bracelets. Well, I get the bracelets on the merch store here pretty soon, so
Mhm.
that
They have the life alert with the little button, and instead of I followed and I can't get up, you can be like, I've fallen off the wagon. And I
falling
can't
off
get
the
off
wagon, and I
But
can't get up.
it's I've never had a problem with it. It's all personal preference.
Mhm.
I guess I feel like it's not necessarily irresponsible, but it's kind of patronizing. I guess I feel really similar to what this person who wrote you this email. I guess I'd have to read the email, but that it's like, don't minimize my journey through this thing. I feel
Mhm.
like when I would get defensive, like when I would read the orange papers online, which was really critical of AA, especially in the
Right.
beginning, I would feel really defensive because I'd say, well, it's working for me. And
So
I'm
why
not
would you read them?
because I love to be outraged. Just like I fucking watch the news
Okay.
about
Okay.
stupid ass
All right.
Trump and get all fucked off because I was
Okay.
like, man, I love being mad. Let's hear what this asshole has to say about AA. And then
Yeah.
I'd read it and he'd be like, well, it's full of sex predators and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, everywhere is full of sex predators. What, are you gonna fucking not go to Outback Steakhouse because it's full of sex predators, you ding dong? Like, but then again, Outback Steakhouse is also not offering you recovery.
No.
People dilute things, people fuck things up. You put people into
They
anything.
co-op
They
things. They
co-op
hijack
shit.
things.
They write programs that aren't perfect because people aren't perfect.
Right.
Like Bill W. and Dr. Bob wrote a program that was really fucking helpful, but it's not perfect. It's not perfect because nothing is perfect in this world. That's the thing. I think as human beings, we expect perfection, but there's
Mhm.
a child's laugh. Well, it depends on what fucking kid is laughing and what the
And why?
context is.
Yeah.
If the laugh's coming from under your bed at 2 a.m, that's not perfect. You know what I
No,
mean?
That is pretty fucking
Yeah, and you
far from
have no
perfect.
children, or if you have a child, you know,
Even-
but
either
you
or.
know, but your daughter laughing her ass off playing with her friends, that's great. You know,
Mhm.
so there's no perfection, you know. So to say either way that AA is absolutely flawed and it does not work, buy my snake oil, try my thing
Mhm.
works better. That's sus. That's mad sus. And to say AA is the only way, you can only do the 12 steps this way, you need to fucking get up and pray on your knees and then read 12 and 12 and then read the big book and then all this shit, and you need to do it this way or you're going to get drunk and die. That's suspect too. You got to find your middle groove in there.
And
a little
maybe
bit of skepticism, a little bit of faith.
but also
Faith, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of too where I found my groove. And this when you talk about the hardlining and the just the pounding in of either or, right? It can't, and you may find that something in this 12-step program doesn't resonate with you, and you're like, I can't fucking
Yeah.
get back there. That's garbage. That's trash. And then this other person says, oh, hey, well, maybe this might help. And you go, oh, that's exactly the help I needed. So
Right.
why wouldn't you use that? I mean, I wouldn't fault you in the slightest. Now, that being said, skepticism, faith, that's been something for me that I have found in the last, several years. Some flexibility in the foundation of my faith, right?
Right.
In that, oh, okay, I don't need to be a hardlined proponent of one particular way of doing something for every single person because you're gonna die,
Right. That's ridiculous. That doesn't help anyone. It only serves you
Mm-mm.
and your superiority.
Yeah. So
That's my opinion of it.
yes.
Not you. I just mean rhetorically you. I
Mhm.
don't know what you do. I know what you do. You make weird cooking videos. That's what you do.
I do. I got 16,000 hits on that fucking banana oat cake. That's insane.
Yeah, let me talk to you about your banana oat cake video because I was watching this in bed the other night with my wife, and I was like, there's two shots that bother me. And I'm only
Okay.
giving you a critique as a friend.
Please,
First of all,
please.
when you have your timer up, just wipe down the oven. Just wipe it down. Just wipe. There's a little. Secondly, when you open the oven to pull the oat cake out, it's just your bare ass feet. Put some shoes on, John. Don't be making oat cake in your bare fucking feet. And I even looked at Megan and I'm like, I don't want to look at John's foot next to the oat cake. And Megan's like,
be hungry that I got to.
and Megan's like, she's like, it's a really good video though. The oat cake looks good. And I'm like, but not John's foot, his bare foot. I'm like, who cooks in bare feet? I can't even be in the kitchen in bare feet. It grosses me out so much. I have to put shoes on to go into the kitchen. It was
Fair
killing
enough.
me.
Critique.
I went down the
accepted.
Johnny rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Starting with like you shaving the beard off video, which by the way,
God.
your facial hair looks really nice.
Thank you.
The way you did it was funny though, because you just went from bigger beard to smaller beard. And I'm like, man, if I were there directing, I'd be like, we're shaving you bare.
The whole thing.
We're
Yeah.
shaving you bare like a fucking baby, because it'd be such a dramatic.
I thought about it, but
Right. But I'm not there
ready
directing.
for that.
I'm like, John, but the song, it was haunting. It was funny and haunting.
That was what I was going for. It was
The
funny.
hair. And then I realized that I was like, John's trying to creep me out and make me laugh. So now I get it, you know.
It's a bit of a troll.
How many views did you get on that oat cake video? 60,000?
16.
Oh, 16.
1
That's
6.
not bad though. It's not bad for a guy who just usually films squirrels in his backyard.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, I went from 17 subscribers to 67 or something like that.
Nice.
Who the fuck are these people?
You just got to put your feet in every video now, dude.
I guess. And I posted it on and we'll get back to the recovery here in a second, but I posted it on Imgur.
Yeah.
So one of the comments was, that thing looks really delicious, but I'm going to need you to do me a really big favor in the top of your microwave, dude.
Yes, John. I'm just saying.
I didn't
wipe
realize.
everything down.
I didn't realize how dirty it was. I'm sorry.
Also, I'm going to make a recommendation to you, YouTube, that I think you'll like. Have you ever watched You Suck at Cooking?
No.
Great. Watch his videos. I'm telling you, his videos are phenomenal. They're the only really cooking videos I really like. They're funny as fuck. He's a really funny guy. And his kitchen's a little dirty, but there's humor in it. So when you get off the podcast, you get time, just look up You Suck at Cooking.
You Suck at Cooking.
Yeah, and just keep an open mind. Me and Olive watch it all the time. That being said, I'm glad you were sober enough to make your oat cakes in your bare ass feet. Put some shoes on. Get some Crocs. Yo, get some Crocs.
Y'all ready for this?
Cooking Crocs. Y'all ready for this? It's Super Bowl Sunday.
I'm going to make some cauliflower hot wings or whatever.
Boom.
Because I don't eat chicken.
And don't wipe anything down. Just dirty as hell. Just make it in the backyard of the hot plate.
I didn't realize, because I had the camera up here, up above where the mic, and I was like, oh shit, it really is kind of greasy there. And so, yeah, I need to clean the kitchen. You would think with all this quarantine time, I would spend some time in the kitchen.
You're cooking a lot though. That's why. You're just not wiping down every time. That's okay. It's all right. Hey, this is how we learn.
Progress, not perfection.
Shit was so
Jerry.
funny, dude. And Megan was laughing at me because I was getting so worked up. I'm like, I can see his big fucking toe, Megan. And Megan's like, she's just dying. Like, you're so stupid.
And I was really, the thing with that video too is I was gonna put some music to it to kind of flow, but I really loved this sort of bare kitchen sounds. I thought that was kind of cool.
You could always talk over it too, like Bob Rossett.
Bob Rossett.
Oh, that'd be weird. Yeah.
So
we're talking about the AA and people being critical. Look, Mishka is a great example of someone who is critical of AA, but still uses parts of AA in his recovery. And I know we bring up Mishka like every other podcast, but I think he's really relatable because he's our age. Yes. And he's a real similar drunk to the kind of drunks we were.
Yes.
Kind of at the beginning, kind of like coping. I wouldn't say he was a party guy, but I know
he was a party guy.
More
he was
like
in
a
bands.
Super sad fucking drunk too, though, which I can totally relate to. So I like the way he does things. It's very practical. He uses parts of AA, but he won't. I've noticed too, he won't admit that he's using it. Like if he's writing it, he won't be like, this is part of AA. He'll be like, no, the fuck AA. I deal with no AA, But I admire that he, not the fuck AA part, but that he does his own thing and finds his own contentment with it and still struggles with his own shit, but still finds a way to maintain contentment in it,
Well, and I think, and he's a perfect example of the fact that there are tools in the program of AA that can be used outside of it, that there are just practical tools that can be used for whatever.
I think we'd be so much better if people would just use those. You know what I mean? Some of those kind of 12-step tools, just normal folks, normal, typical folks or whatever.
In one of the conversations I had with Mishka, I remember him saying something to the effect of, I probably could have used a program in my early recovery. It's probably
Right.
too late for me now because
Right.
he's, 10, 11 years on.
Mhm.
And he's already, he's sorted out his own way of doing things, right?
His
Works for him
process might have been a
or
little more difficult.
right, exactly. And that's what he said. He said I probably could have used something.
Mhm.
And I think there was another a year or so ago, a podcast he was on, another Rich Roll, and he was talking about they were kind of having a crossfire about AA versus not and this kind
Right.
of thing.
Mhm.
And he was like, and he kind of admitted that there were some things that were good about it, of course. And he says it in the book Cold Turkey. He
Right.
says, use what's available to you, use what works, and still you can be critical of the misogyny, you can be
Mhm.
critical of the the religious
Yeah.
overtones,
Yeah.
which are they are, but they don't need to be read that way, you know.
It is really an interpretation, right? It's almost like it's like listening to a song, and to one person the song has a completely different than meaning than to another person,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the God stuff in AA and the he and him and all that, which is written in the language of the times. They're not going to change that, but
Mm-hmm.
the idea of God being this placeholder for this thing means one thing to one person than it does to another person. It's just like dust in the wind. To one person is about the impermanence of life, and to another person it's about, you're my boy Blue. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know the fucking difference,
Mm-hmm.
or there's a difference there. So it is a really open to interpretation as well, which what makes it kind of ideal to work with.
I think if I had to get over the word God and just sort of,
I
like
did,
you
dude.
said,
I still do.
placeholder.
Yeah.
It's not important. You can put whatever word you want in there.
Mm-hmm.
There's no reason for me to let my deep and justifiable resentments toward religion
Right.
get in the way of me feeling better today, right?
Right. Right.
In the way of me getting a little fucking relief from the
Yeah,
pain and
dude.
suffering
Right.
that is alcoholism.
Mm-hmm.
So that would, that would be my simple advice to anybody who is not only struggling with being an alcoholic, but then
Mm-hmm.
struggling with having to contend with this feeling of religion being imposed upon them, right?
Right. Right. Mm-hmm.
So I don't I don't want to give like I don't have any directives for anybody. We all have to come of this
Yeah.
on our own.
Yeah.
Um
We could
I
just talk about our experience, John. Our story.
experience. My experience is that it's fine for me to be an alcoholic. It's fine for me to call myself an alcoholic. And
Yeah.
one of the other things that I've learned, and I think you would, you're a much more structured person, even in your drinking days than I was.
Yeah.
But the structure of the program is what has helped me build structure in other parts of my life that were so
Shit, yeah,
crucial.
dude. Mm-hmm.
And there's a there's a relief, freedom from structure. And this idea is that, like, even if you want to plan out your day or your week or your month, if I
Mm-hmm.
know what's coming, then I have freedom with the rest of the time. If I have structured out my month, my day, if I know that from this hour to this hour I'm going to be doing this, then I don't have to like live in this weird limbo of, am I going to get these things done, or how am I going to spend my day, or what's going to happen today? And, oh, well, I have free time because I didn't really promise myself I was going to do this, that, or the other. And
Mm-hmm.
then it's like, well, it would be really nice to have a drink. And since I didn't really promise myself that I was going to get those things done, I have all this free time. So I
Yeah.
might as well. And so I think in structuring my days, in structuring my hours, weeks, whatever, I find I'm far more liberated than I am confined from the
Yeah.
stuff that I learned in the program.
Structure's weird, man. It's really weird.
Right.
I love it. I love it. It's just you gave me this
Mhm.
revelation because I think about us during our drinking career, and I was way more structured than you. And you were like this ball of chaos, and I was like this honed laser on just wanting to get fucked up a certain specific type of way. And you were just like this melanoma running wild, you know, and I was just,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And so I do think about structure in my life and routine and how the program has helped me find positive structure and positive routine, but also how that can be a detriment to me in some ways too, because I'm like, yo, it's 10 o'clock. I need to be lifting weights right now. And I'm not lifting weights and that's fucking me up. Like I'm doing this other thing that I have to do that's fucking up, that's derailing my structure. So it's once again like balance, right? Like we say, we got to waver between, you know, belief and skepticism, you know, faith and
Mm-hmm.
skepticism. Same with structure. For me, I have to learn it, but I'm not. This is what I'm learning right now is breaking my routine because I had such a routine before I moved to Arizona. And now it's like I live in the fucking submarine and help
Yeah.
homeschool my kid
Yeah.
until they put her back on hybrid learning, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you life is going to fuck up your routine
It always does, dude.
regardless, right?
The fucked up part is it lets you get a routine. And then when you get comfortable, then it's like yoinks and pulls the fucking carpet out from under you.
So that's, I mean, I think that that's where a little bit of flexibility can go a long way, and that you can say, well, I'm going to have to do this, that, and the other. And so if I really want to get the weightlifting in, I got to do it at
Gotta
9
be
o'clock.
flexible, right? And Megan and
Or,
I just had this
yeah.
conversation. It's so funny you said that because she's like, you gotta learn how to be more flexible, Jerry. Jerry just got to be a little more flexible. And I'm like, I don't fucking want to,
Mhm.
you know, like it really
Yeah.
was like, I don't want to. I'm used to doing it my way. Maybe everybody needs to flex to me. Maybe it needs to be
Mhm.
flexible for me, which is total drinking, Jerry.
Mm-hmm.
It's everybody else's fault, job but mine. We all got to change for me. The world has to change for me. It owes me. I'm the center of it, you know? Got to take yourself outside of it.
You're going to be sitting in that chair for a long time waiting for that. I mean, like,
Nothing happens, right? Yeah.
Well, and I guess too, when I think about the topic of this conversation, and I think about me having to defend, like, I don't feel like I have to defend my recovery or defend my
It's
way of doing it.
yours. Yeah.
I don't anymore. I mean, maybe in the beginning there might have been, I mean, I had a pretty good support system of people. There wasn't anyone who was contesting me making my life better. You
Right.
know, I
Mhm.
think there might have been a couple like, really, you're just never going to drink again, ever? Like, this is not like just a whim.
Mhm.
But nobody ever actively was like pointing a finger at me and saying, you need to do it the right way. And so
Right.
I've learned that I don't need to defend it. And so if somebody wants to talk about it, that's fine. If somebody wants to say, you know, I found a different way, I think I found a better way. And I'd be like, that is fantastic. You should do that.
Huh?
Like, I just don't think that I need a better way. I am always interested in a deeper understanding of myself.
Of
and the way-
course. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah. You're constantly exploring yourself. I don't mean that as a joke. It's both
Although
ways,
that's
though.
good.
It
It's
is.
good.
It is good.
It's
Yeah.
good.
But you are, though. I've noticed that you do the work. Do you know what? You do the work a lot more more out loud and out forward than I do. Like the stuff you're doing, your internal psychological work, you're like, boom, you know, you're kind of doing it. It's hard for me to explain.
What do you well, so like, what do you mean? Is there something, what do you see? What
I
am I
see
doing?
you going on a journey of John and you're kind of
Okay.
letting everybody look at it. You're like, check this out. This is what I'm doing. Like, this is my way of changing, or this is my way of, my thought process is re-knitting and reworking itself. And you're like really transparent about it. That's the word
Yeah.
I'm looking for. You're very like, boom, this is how I'm doing this. This is what I'm doing now. Come along with me on my social media journey. Check it out. You know what I mean? And I was like raised really weird about feelings, so I like hide a lot of shit. I like kind of opaque about things. I only let you see what I want you to see of it, you know? And so I've always admired that about you, is that you've always been very transparent about like I've always been super open about my alcoholism. How could I not be? I was open about my alcoholism when I was actively alcoholic. So what's the difference, you know? But as far as like the psychological process, and I think maybe it's because you do run the AIFA Instagram and shit. So that's coming from you and your heart. You're like writing
Yeah.
in these unprecedented times of alcohol or whatever fucking thing you're writing. But I know it's coming from who you are as your person, where I'm more like brush it off like, yeah, I'm a big drunk. Where the fucking circus peanuts or whatever stupid thing I'm saying, and it comes from a lot of opacity on my end because I'm like, I don't really know how to really comfortable with that shit. Like when you told me earlier about this group that was using our podcast as the centerpiece for their discussion, this AA group, and you're like, oh, and I recommended them the one where we read the letters to our addiction, and I was like, my first thought was, fuck, I'm gonna have a room full of men listening to me fucking crying about my alcoholism, and it made me like uncomfortable. I was like, ugh.
But
Even though
there's already been
hundreds
like,
of people have already listened to it. Yeah,
hundreds.
I know. Right. But for me,
it's out
like,
there.
It's so weird, man. My opacity is like super, like, I like lock it in. And it's just a personality thing that I need to deal with. Or maybe not. I mean, it's not necessarily a detriment. It can be, but it's not. I don't know.
You don't need to change today. And you can be guarded and you can be more introverted and you don't have to. I mean, I think maybe, we're sharing this to the world right now.
Right.
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 But
exactly.
You can be more guarded and there's nothing wrong with that. I've just found for me, being transparent about the things that I'm going through currently, I don't have a lot of people to talk to, Jerry.
You don't. And you're really good at asking for help. And I think that's a really important thing in recovery is being able to ask for help. And I had a really hard time asking for help. And so sometimes I felt like I had a tough go of it because I was embarrassed to ask for help. And that's a big thing too. I want to express, as far as in my recovery is if I would have asked for help a little bit more, I think I would have gotten a lot more positivity out of the program.
You would have gotten a lot more help.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? But I didn't want to ask for help because I didn't want to bother anybody. And I didn't want to be like,
it's not a bother. And it's not a bother.
That's why they're in that fucking room. But I'm like, no, bro. I'm just here for the fucking coffee, bro.
You're back in the shoe section with the loafers, slippers, and sneakers. Dude. But here's the thing. When you talk about me being transparent or open, so we've talked about why we started this podcast and how originally it was a very self-serving thing. I wanted help staying sober. Right. I knew that I could trust you. Right. So we started reading. I could at least trust you to show up once a week for an hour and listen to me. Right. Yeah. We could crack some jokes. We could talk about being sober. We could bitch about this, that, and the other, and then we could be on our way. So then I was like, okay, well, what's troubling me today? What's troubling me this week? What the fuck am I going through? I just want to figure it out. And, one of the other things that has helped me immensely is my morning writing. And I've kind of beefed that up a little bit where I kind of just, a lot of times it's just rambling, but sometimes I'll solve a problem. And so in a lot of ways, the podcast is me going, what's on my mind this week, or what are we thinking about? Or you'll come up with a topic. And so it becomes something that is genuinely, it's what we're feeling. Yeah. And so if I can sort that out, and then I'm a little bit better afterwards. So, I mean, yeah, ask for help. And
absolutely.
I think
don't do it like Jerry did it.
But if you can be, I don't want to say you, I have found it helpful to be transparent.
Right.
I have helped. I mean, we don't talk about everything, and I certainly not everything is for everyone.
This podcast,
right? For this podcast.
But yeah, that's just goes without saying. Yeah, there's shit people don't want to hear about me. It's gross. I'm gross. Yeah.
So I think that it's self-serving as much as, but then also it's great to hear from somebody and go, oh, you got something out of that.
That blows me away. The fact that my dad was talking to one of his sponsees or one of his former, one of these guys that he was working with, and the guy's like, yeah, listen to your son's podcast. I think it's really good. Or the fact you sent me that email, that just every time I hear about someone getting something from this or someone accessing this and either negative or positive, it always trips me out. Because to me, it's just you and me. And it's this thing I do every Sunday at noon now in Tucson. And I'm like, all right, okay, I'm going to turn off Red Dead Redemption and do this thing, you know? And that other people are getting something that's fucking crazy. That just trips me out. That trips me out. Yeah, it really does. And I think you get all the emails and you get all the like comments and stuff, so you know it. You know, you see it a little bit more than I do. I'm not saying it lessens that feeling for you, because yeah, I know you're also like really grateful for it, and you know.
Sure. I can't, I'm always amazed when some of you, whoever out there, like when you guys, you gals, you folks, send us messages and stuff like that. Like I'm always just kind of like, well, I'm blown away, because still in my head at 5 years on, there's still a part of me that's like, you're just a fucking fat drunk asshole, John.
Right.
You know, right.
And
Like,
what do you got? 5 years? Wow. Big fucking whoop. 5 years, you know, like,
right.
right.
So I have to
that. Yeah.
have to not listen to that person. And that was, you know, speaking of the Instagram, like that thing I posted last night, because it just I couldn't stop laughing. Because it's that clip from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Oh yeah, that shit is great. Yeah.
And I think in the context of the show, it was actually a dance off.
It was a dance off, yeah.
Right. And that pirouette that Charlie Day does, that's not an easy thing to do.
Oh,
Like
he's
the man,
a good dancer. I think they're all kind of good dancers.
So, but it just reminded me of those times where, and there's one in particular from like 97 or something, and like being in the Vets Club, 98 maybe. They had to be 98, and like the guy who would tap dance on the apple crate, and I got thrown out and got kicked out, and I was like screaming at the fucking bartender, and you guys dragged me out of the bar. I was, you know, I was doing my best Hunter S. Thompson, and you guys were like, we got to get fucking John out of here. And I saw that clip, and I was like, that's usually what would happen, is I would be fucking being an asshole, and Jerry's like, I just want to sit over here and drink my whiskey.
Right. And your interpretive dancing has like, really, dude? You're like, I just wanted to dance like Jim Morrison in The Doors, dude. Because you had watched that that Doors, that
it's that weird hippie sort of.
There's some weird like backwards running ass clapping you did too one night. That was the funniest fucking thing I'd ever seen. You're like running backwards in a circle and slapping your butt cheeks to like, I don't know, some 90s hip hop song. No, we were in a bar with, it was like Nelly or some shit, and it was like stupid. It was getting hot in here or something. But that shit was so damn funny.
But yeah, so it's come a long way, and everything's come a long way, and it's very easy for me to, it's really easy for me to forget that when I get stuck in the moment, and I'm just like, life sucks, and I'm like, well, actually it doesn't, John. Like, it's pretty good. So the writing helps with that, the talking helps with that, also knowing that, like, I feel like my program is pretty solid in the foundation of it. And so, and I can definitely feel when I stray away from it, or I haven't tapped into it in a little while, but I don't feel the need to defend it to anyone. And I don't think if you are working something that is working for you, that you don't need to defend it to anybody, that you can feel good in what you're doing regardless.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, the other part of that is that they say, find someone who has what you want, and then go talk to them. And so when I feel like I want something that somebody else has, you know, from recovery or from life, it's like, well, then I go talk to them and I listen to them and I do what they tell me.
Right.
Because that's how they got it. So there's a difference between just, you know, do what you're told, get in line, do the program. You can have whatever flexibility you require. Now, let's be honest, you may not get the same results.
No, well, it's different, right?
It's
and
different.
There is that old hardline AA of like boot camp where they're like, the newcomer's an idiot, get over here and whatever, but I think
Mhm.
that's slowly starting to dissipate.
Mhm.
I think it still has strongholds in certain places, but yeah,
I think that
I
there's
don't know.
a certain element of tough love, and like for me, I think it's important to let people know. The last time I spoke with somebody about the program and stuff like that, and
Mhm.
I let people know that you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You can work this however you want. The
Mhm.
only reason that I am sober and doing as well as I am today is because I worked it in this particular way, in this particular order.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
this way works for me. Quite possibly, if you drank like I drank, then it will work for you. But if that doesn't feel good, and I always tell people too, is think about, I can't let God, I want to say it correctly. I I am very good at giving myself excuses, right?
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
am really good at the excuses that have allowed me to slip and to not I haven't slipped, but whatever it
I know
is,
what you
to
mean, though.
slip and falter and to
Mhm.
feel
A
bad and to
lapse in
feel
better
sad,
judgment,
a lapse in
Yeah.
better judgment. Yes.
Mhm.
So part of my self-care and part of my self-love is wanting to be better and to not let those excuses pile up and let those excuses run the show, because
Mhm.
it's okay. It's important for me to be kind to myself, to be forgiving, but not fall into those excuses. There's a fine line for me between, John, it's okay. I still love you and
Mhm.
you're still good enough, that kind of thing. And go ahead, man. It's not a big deal. You don't need to do that. Right? Like
Right. You can
those
do it
two
tomorrow.
voices that you can
You
do
can
it
do it
tomorrow.
Thursday. You can do it on Wednesday. Don't worry about it.
It's like, yeah, it's like
Mhm.
there's the voice that says it's okay you didn't do it today.
Mhm.
And I need to listen to that voice. But the other voice that said, you don't have to do it, you can do it tomorrow. Like
Right.
that voice is, and so there's this fine line. And so in being honest with myself, it's like, well, which one is it? Is it forgiveness or is it just a fucking excuse?
Right.
Because every
Right.
time I
Yeah.
listen to the
Mhm.
excuse, I just feel shitty
Mhm.
rather than being actually forgiving to myself.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I that's something that I'm trying to be more in tune with.
What you're saying about giving yourself excuses is I was thinking about it right now when I was, in the other room is is that the check is always due, right? Regardless of what it is. So anything
Mm-hmm.
you kick down the can to do later, you've got to do later, so whether or not you are going to be prepared to, because even if you completely ignore it, it's got to be attended to in one way or another eventually, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in my mind, I'm like, well, might as well do it while you can and while you're able to, then to deal with it later when it's got metastasized and gotten
Yeah.
worse or gotten bigger or become
Mm-hmm.
more of a chore. Um, that being said, it's still a giant pain in the fucking ass. It's still not fun sometimes to have to do that. It's so weird, right? Because we always talk about the ambiguous work of ourselves, like I'm working on myself, or I'm working on this, or I'm using the tools, and the tool in my mind now, like I've said before, is I'm just living it instead of actually going through the Rolodex in my mind and going, okay, where is my coping mechanism? There it is. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
There is a lot of intentional reminders of myself to be patient and use that kind of aspect of the program where I'm like, okay, look, I have to be patient. Why do I have to be patient? You know what I mean? And while I'm going through that in my head, almost force stepping it, right? Jerry, you
Yeah.
have to be patient. Why? Because if you're not patient, you're going to snap at this person. You're going to hurt their feelings. They're going to be upset at you. You upset these people enough times in a row, you're going to become more unreliable or unpleasant, and they don't want to be around you. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird, the program of that
Mm-hmm.
fourth step of breaking it down to why it is you do what you do and what your pattern is, and then that playing the tape back of why your repeated actions or your repeated kicking the can down the road or your repeated inactivity will affect you,
Mm-hmm.
how it goes down. like we're still in that process, both of us, of if I drink, it's not bad things will happen. We're still using examples. Like I'm like, if I drink, I don't stop drinking. I fight with my wife. My wife leaves me. She takes my kid. I lose everything. Do you know what I mean? I see the consequences as actual things instead of the big abstract of something bad will happen. Well, yeah, but what's the bad thing that will happen? Just
What's
like you're the same way.
Happen?
You're like, if I drink, I don't stop drinking. I lose my job. I lose my house. I lose my physical fitness I work so hard on. I fuck my diet up. You know what I'm saying? The gout.
The gout comes back.
The gout
God,
comes back.
if I never get the gout, I feel for anybody who has it, man. And it's like it is one of the worst agonizing things I've ever been through.
And putting vodka in the cherry juice don't fix it.
No, it does not.
Makes it worse.
So yeah, I think ultimately finding a program that works for you and finding a foundation, it can come from multiple sources. And
hell yeah, like a mixtape.
Exactly.
Recovery.
You can have a mixtape of recovery, and the sobriety world is vast these days. And so you're going to find conflicting points of view. You're going to find conflicting philosophies. You're going to find conflicting programs.
Right.
And
so, unless you're doing it, I would say, here's my advice. Here's my call to action is that unless you're fucking hurting other people or hurting yourself, you're not doing it. You know what I mean? Unless you're doing that, then you're probably not doing it wrong. As long as you're staying sober and trying to figure out how to stay sober without making everybody else around you miserable, you're doing all right. But if you're actively hurting other people, then you're doing it wrong. Yeah. Don't do it that way.
Don't do it that way.
Yeah, that's my only call to action. It's super ambiguous.
I think that's fair. If you're hurting other people, if you're hurting yourself, don't do it that way.
Don't do it that way. Yeah.
If you're listening to this, you at the very least have a cursory interest in maybe
recovery,
something
changing a pattern behavior that you find troubling or horrible, or nightmarish.
Yes. So I hope that helps. Not only to the person who wrote me, but to anybody else who is feeling concern or defensiveness about what they're doing with their life. And that you don't need to be defensive. You don't need to defend yourself to anyone.
Nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
You do you and make yourself okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll worry about happy later. Just do you and make yourself okay. Get settled. And then from there you can fucking
worry about happy later.
Happy's bullshit anyway.
There you go. There it is.
All right.
There it is from the cynical, opaque Jerry Wagner Jr.
I don't ever feel happy. Just wait from one disaster to the next.
So I just want to say I hope you have a good Super Bowl, Jerry.
It's going to be great. I'm not going to watch shit
at all.
I'm even taking the day off from painting today. I'm going to play Red Dead Redemption 2.
Nice.
And I'm going to paint tomorrow. Man, that 8-mile hike though, you come visit me. We'll take you on that little hike. You'll like it.
I love a good
sweet
hike.
There's a lot of trails. Sweet babies. Get out there in nature if you can. Feel tiny. It's good to feel tiny.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah. We'll feel tiny.
Thanks again for listening. Our music, as always, is by Neglect. You can find more of his stuff at neglect.bandcamp.com.
And you can find us on all social media platforms that matter: Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can reach us at aisforalcoholic@gmail.com.
Talk to you later.
Yeah.